Ladies and gentlemen, friends and colleagues, here we are again. This is the section 3 or part 3 of a 6-part series with Arpad Sakal, who's a principal consultant for Cormis Partners, and that is a search and leadership assessment firm, and their focus is on senior level recruitment. Arpad, so excellent to have you back again. Part 3, it's flying past. So we've covered hiring strategy, we've covered transparency of job expectation with the minimum expectation document reference, and now here we are on appraisals. Now, appraisals for me, I think, is such an important element. And when we go back to the hiring strategy and the interview stage, I think that's also a very, very appropriate question to ask of the company. How often do you do your appraisals? And what is the purpose of those appraisals? And what have been the most positive learning experiences that both parties get from your current appraisal system? That's what I'd like to ask if I was joining a company.
No, I mean, the appraisal is a vital tool in the assessment and reward of performance. I think it's beyond ensuring that employees are meeting the standards, the expectations. I think it's a great tool to assess the performance of your entire team, rewarding the top performance within the business, and taking corrective actions, basically, if you need to take them, who are with employees who are not meeting the required standards, basically. So it's a critical tool when it comes to continuous improvement, Chris. So the answer to your question is that it should be an ongoing and almost like a continuous, again, dialogue. I think gone are the days when you had the one or maybe 2 times a year sort of sit downs, quarterly reviews and performance appraisals, and then you had all the negatives or the positives from your manager. I think it's an important tool when it comes to talent identification as well. Like what's working within the organization, what doesn't, what are they, like, are these realistic? This can be a really good management tool as well. All the info, the feedback that you are getting back from these appraisals. Let's not forget that these are two-way sort of conversations. I mean, you're not just downloading things on your employee, but it's also an opportunity for them to identify areas that you might not be as good as others out there. So it's a tool for change management as well, from an organizational standpoint. Chris.
Yeah, no, very good. It is, and it is a good tool for change management and transformation. And a lot of the time, you get indications from the appraisals as to where things are going wrong, or what needs to be readdressed. Now, you specialize in senior level recruitment and leadership, obviously. So, one of the first questions that I've seen gets asked when you go for a position of leadership is they ask you, "What is leadership? What is leadership?"
Yeah.
And I think one of the most simple responses to that is that, leadership is the art of getting things done.
That's a really good one. I think I quite like that, because that encompasses what it is, basically getting people together and doing things the way you've envisioned the strategy, basically. That's the
And I got a lovely little formula for you, Arpad. So tell me what you think of it, right? Leadership impact equals, right, and then in brackets, objectives plus strategy plus team plus values plus motivation, close brackets, times action. Okay, and the note to the calculation is nothing to the left of the times makes any difference if the action equals 0.
Exactly, because those things that you've put in the bracket, I mean, they are the components of an effective leader. But if you don't really take massive action, then it's just going to be very difficult to make anything happen. I think it's basically that's a really good way to put it. Yeah.
And on the action though, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Colin Powell's 40-70 rule, are you?
No, I haven't come across.
Okay, so what he said was, don't take action if you have only enough information to give you a less than 40% chance of being right. But if you have waited until you're more than 70% certain, then you have waited too long.
Yeah. I think that's spot on. I think it's just the skill is, Chris, is knowing, timing it right. How do you,
Yeah.
I think the nuance is basically of timing. How do you deliver it? How do you really make sure that you're also not only respected, but to a certain extent, maybe even liked a little bit, although that's not the function of a leader. But yeah, I think respect and someone who's who has the credibility, the stature. I think those are really important components as well.
Yeah, yeah, and like I've had people say to me, you know, people measure a good leader by the charisma or the presence in a room, but there's many different types of good leaders,
Yeah.
and you know, it doesn't always have to be somebody who's, you know, is very strong, great speaker. It can be somebody that's very structured, very organized. It can be somebody that's able to spread messages and get people to follow them by what they do as much as what they say there should be done. So, you know, how you give people feedback is so important. It's so special. It's so personal, and you can get it so wrong, Arpad.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's why it's so important that you give your employees the floor. I think the value of listening is very much overlooked, especially when it comes to highly operational, sort of like the airline industry, the airport industry, ground handling, cargo, things like. I think when management listens to employees and takes action to resolve their issues, their problems, their concerns, in return, that employee is actually going to probably be happier, more motivated, and maybe even stay 1 or 2 more years if you're lucky. So it's basically, I think it will be reflected on the organization's success, basically. I think that's.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And sometimes the opening or the start of the appraisal can be the killer or the cure. Yeah. And you know, when people do more telling rather than listening, it's not a good sign. And if the questions and if the subject matter is planned well enough, and you ask somebody, you know, do they feel they've achieved certain things, or do they feel they've hit the targets, the expectations? Most people are pretty true to themselves, and in the main, they're more critical about themselves than you are as the appraiser.
Yeah, exactly, and that provides you an opportunity to be compassionate, use some EQ. I think it's basically, but it's also when it comes to change management, if there are things that are changing within the organization, this is a great tool. An appraisal is a great tool to explain any new duties, obligations the change entails, establish new KPIs, provide details of any training courses that need to be completed. I think that's why, because I think it's again, getting back to how often was the right number. Just like with stay interviews, I think it's basically this should again be something that is almost like a continuous thing. Because if you don't have the intimacy, so to say, with your internal talent or future talent, then you don't really have any insights. You don't really have a relationship. And I think it's basically without any trusting. Good quality relationship with your talent, I think you will just be experiencing what a lot of these ground handlers, cargo firms, airlines are experiencing out there, where people are basically voting with their feet, basically.
Yep. And it's a very easy thing to do. And I think one of the main concerns, one of the main issues, and it can be termed as one word, is care. Yeah. If they don't feel that people care about the business, the company, the product, the brand, whatever it is, they don't care about the people. If they don't care about the people won't care about them as a company.
Exactly. And this is why I think assessing the performance assessment stuff that we talked about, but also ensuring that these appraisals are serving as a tool to help the employee to correct their actions if they need to. I think that's a really good way to get someone back into the right course. I think that's what it serves as well.
Yeah. And I think another thing that people need to look for is if you actually feel that you're working for a great manager or a great leader, that sometimes is of more value than the brand and the company itself, because people stay for good leaders and they work well with good leaders. and they appreciate good leaders, and good leaders bring the best out of the people. So, you know, companies need to be aware of who's having a really good, positive dynamic with the people, because in many cases, companies, and I've worked with them. In fact, I'm writing a little article about the particular concept, but individuals can affect so many people's lives.
Mm.
The good ones will put up with it for so long, they'll leave. Company loses great talent. The ones who don't feel that they've got capabilities, or they don't want the pressure of leaving, they will stay and put up with it. And then it becomes part of that culture.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't come out in appraisals, or if it doesn't come out at opportunities for people to speak their mind, then it can go on for too long. It will eventually change, but it may have gone on for too long for too many people. And that is a terrible, terrible loss for any organization.
People don't leave bad companies. People leave bad leaders, managers. I think that's how the saying goes, and I think it's just very true. I think it's there's no such thing as a bad job, but there's such thing as a very bad manager. Basically, that's
So they say. There is no bad job.
Oh.
No, that's true enough. Now, what has been the most impressive appraisal concept that you've ever seen or heard? And equally, what has been the worst, Arpad?
An impressive one. I think the most impressive ones are basically, again, the ones that are a continuous sort of dialogue, and the ones that have been agreed almost at interview stage, so that there is a complete alignment in terms of what good looks like, what success looks like, and basically there's like almost with data-backed precision, the employee can come back. This is what I've done over the past sort of 10 weeks or 12 weeks since we last spoken. What do you think? And then it opens up the dialogue between the I think, again, continuous performance evaluation. I think that's fantastic. On both sides, by the way. It's a two-way street, I would add. The worst ones are, and again, there are plenty of these, unfortunately, especially in the aviation space, where employers are doing this really once or twice a year and not structured, only downloading the bad, never giving any kind of positive, never giving the floor to the employees, by the way. I mean, they never get the opportunity to say anything, to provide feedback to their managers or leadership. I think it's, and the sector is quite slow, to be honest with you, to pick up those new trends, to really just do what others have been doing for the past 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. Basically, that's what I'm witnessing. That it's, and I'm not talking about just tech companies, Chris. I'm talking about really like related sort of the logistics space, the distribution space. I mean, those companies that are more tech savvy, more apt to listening and to really just pick up these talent trends that are happening at the moment. Basically, I think those are the things that, like this continuous checking in things, making sure that you have the most up-to-date information from your employees, and really just cherish them. I think that's what I would say.
Yep. Let me ask you something else now. Okay. So a little bit on the swing side of what we've been talking about. Right. So it's great. All right. A lot of different challenges, new generational approaches, you know, expectations, etc. As a company, there should also be certain expectations. And one of the questions I would put to people now is, you know, do you find yourself impatient? You know, do you find that you want things immediately? Do you find that, you know, things aren't happening fast enough for you? Because a company has also got to gauge whether somebody is there and is capable of staying for a suitable amount of time, and also has realistic expectations, but doesn't get bored easy or dissatisfied easy, because then they become quite disruptive. And you know, I think we're in a phase now where this last 2 years has created absolute havoc with normality and expectations and forecast, and it's just, incredible what it's done. And people now, they need this extremes to sort of balance somewhere, you know?
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think testing these patients, really just having a look at someone's CV. Have you stayed somewhere for more than even like a year or a year and a half these days, by the way,
exactly.
when it comes to that's a really good way to figure out if they are going to be there during the tough times, when they get some constructive feedback, when you don't talk to them in a way that they're used to. I think it's especially the younger generation, but I would include the mid-career professional, Chris, in that as well. The sort of 30s, 40s. I mean, the millennials can be 41. I think that's the oldest millennial out there. So it's not only the Gen Z. I think it's short attention spans. The moment someone doesn't get what they want or what they demand in terms of flexibility, in terms of well-being, in terms of base compensation, bonus, people just hit the road. And I think it's quite unacceptable if you think about. I mean, I know, and you can't blame it on COVID, and you can't blame it on any the past 2 years. I think it's the expectations are outrageous in a lot of cases, basically, and those expectations are coming from the 20, 30, 40-year-olds, and even the older generation, basically. And most of those are completely unjustified, if you ask me. So that's my sort of, if you want my honest opinion, that's it.
And that's also a big challenge for companies, because everybody, it's like houses: buyers market, sellers market, employers market, candidate market. They are. I think a lot of people are so overconfident now. That they're going to be able to demand this and this and this, and it's actually distorting the value of the interview, the appraisal, everything. And
this is why what I said earlier, I think this humility thing, like accepting that you are probably not the best at whatever you do, just really having the courage to say that in an interview setting, and say that, no, I haven't done that. I might not be the best in Excel or PowerPoint, but I'm really good at X, Y, Z. So it's I think that's the that's probably the best way to phrase it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, my friend, that's the end of the third session. So we've got 3 more to go, and then we'll have a nice little roundup about the candidates themselves. So I appreciate your comment, appreciate your feedback. It's always nice to see somebody who loves their subject matter, very enthusiastic and full of humility.
Thank you, Chris, again for the opportunity, and look forward to the other episodes. Yeah.